What happens if Princess Leonor refuses the crown of Spain? If she says no, the palace gates close behind the last visitor. The marble floors echo with a weight that cannot be measured. Outside, Madrid hums with ordinary life, unaware that the threads of centuries are pulled taut inside these walls. The crown sits untouched, polished, and expectant. Continuity does not wait for consent. She moves through corridors lined with portraits of kings and queens, their eyes cast forward, never backward. Each frame is a reminder: authority is inherited, codified, and beyond negotiation. This is the living thread of continuity, stretching from Isabella to Felipe, and now, to her. In Spain, the law of succession is absolute, designed to ensure the monarchy endures beyond individual hesitation. National identity is woven into these rituals. Citizens are taught, unconsciously, that the crown is as much a symbol of the nation as the flag above the parliament. To refuse is not merely a personal choice, it is a fissure in the foundation of governance. By the second minute, the question arises: what does refusal truly entail? Not abdication, not a temporary pause, but a rupture. It reframes what we think we know about duty. Monarchies are seen as ceremonial, predictable. Yet here, the possibility of no challenges centuries of law, expectation, and ritual. Each advisor, each council member, calculates outcomes in silence. Madrid is alert, yet restrained. They understand the optics. The United States watches quietly, analysts tracing continuity as a measure of European stability. London speculates on constitutional precedent. Canada, Australia, Germany, each registers the potential shockwave, interpreting hesitation as a metric of institutional resilience. Global credibility is at stake, even when the streets remain calm. If she says no, even spoken aloud, the words are almost unthinkable. And yet, their weight is undeniable. A bridge forms immediately between personal choice and national consequence. This is not about a single person's inclination, it is about a structure that has survived invasions, civil strife, and modern political upheaval. Every decision is measured against that history, against a promise of continuity that is never negotiable. Beyond the palace walls, the court of public opinion stirs, but the deeper mystery remains deliberately unspoken. There is a protocol that even historians cannot fully access. Certain documents are sealed, certain deliberations invisible. The crown operates in shadows, and the mechanisms that enforce continuity are themselves designed to be opaque. A refusal could trigger the first public unraveling of a structure built for centuries of obedience. By the 10th minute, murmurs of strain begin to circulate among the institutional ranks. Legal scholars debate emergency measures. Advisors outline contingencies in controlled, precise language. The palace is calm, but the tension is palpable. Continuity is not abstract here, it is embodied in visible presence, in the very posture of the palace, in the ceremonial choreography that binds law, lineage, and expectation. A point of no return looms. History whispers that there is precedent in Europe for abdication, for refusal, but never in Spain under current constitutional design. The crown cannot pause for sentiment. Once the decision edges toward no, the machinery of succession accelerates into motion. Advisors, ministers, and foreign observers anticipate consequences measured not in days but in generations. Beyond Spain, the reactions are telling. The United States calculates the impact on NATO optics and bilateral relations. The United Kingdom notes the subtle erosion of ceremonial continuity. Germany considers the ripple through European stability, while Australia and Canada monitor the symbolic resonance in Commonwealth contexts. Even when Spain is not part of the Commonwealth, symbolism matters. In every capital, institutional credibility is scrutinized. By minute 19, there is recognition that threats are both immediate and deferred. Public demonstrations, legislative debates, subtle pressure from the courts, all are instruments waiting to assert order. Yet the palace remains a fortress of silent authority. Power is structural, not emotional. The crown endures not because of loyalty, but because of systemized survival. If she says no, the words hang, finally, in the quiet. And the story does not resolve. The palace, the nation, the world beyond, all hold breath. What follows could redefine succession, test global perceptions of monarchy, and challenge centuries of assumed inevitability. The crown waits, poised between history and uncertainty, and the next act remains unwritten. History is watching. The walls are watching. And for now, even the crown itself, heavy with expectation, waits. A ripple runs through the corridors of power. Ministers adjust schedules, legal advisors revisit protocols, and a quiet urgency settles in rooms that rarely see disruption. This is the gravity of refusal. It is never loud, but it is unmistakable. Continuity is at stake, measured in procedure, ceremony, and the subtle gestures that affirm authority. The palace clock ticks in a rhythm older than most constitutions. Each chime is a reminder: succession cannot be paused for personal hesitation. In the chambers where councils convene, whispers are avoided. The law is explicit, yet even the most precise text leaves room for interpretation. And in that interpretation lies the tension, the fissure between codified duty and human choice. Global eyes remain fixed. Washington considers continuity as a metric of reliability. Embassies draft contingency plans not for spectacle, but for stability. London notes that monarchy is more than tradition, it is a measure of national equilibrium. Berlin calculates potential impact on European intergovernmental relations. Ottawa and Canberra track public sentiment, aware that symbolic authority echoes across continents. This is the quiet pressure of international observation. Even hesitation in a palace is seen as a test of global institutional integrity. Inside the palace, advisors navigate scenarios in which every option is both constrained and critical. Historical precedents are examined. European monarchs who deferred, abdicated, or refused, yet Spain's structure offers almost no precedent for voluntary declination at this stage. The crown, though ceremonial in many eyes, is procedural at its core. A refusal would activate contingency measures designed to preserve stability, but the optics are fragile. National identity is intertwined with ceremony. When a crown hesitates, the nation perceives a pause in its own continuity. The public, largely unaware of the precise legal mechanisms, senses tension nonetheless. Media speculation is careful, avoiding overt alarm, but the curiosity is relentless. What happens if the heir steps aside? Would Parliament convene in extraordinary session? Would distant relatives be considered? Or does the structure of monarchy itself absorb refusal and move forward, as it always has? The questions are legal, social, and symbolic all at once. And yet, even as the machinery of succession hums quietly, there is an unresolved human element. The heir walks corridors built for kings, yet she is singularly herself. The law prescribes her path, the nation expects her presence, foreign observers anticipate continuity, but she alone holds the choice that could momentarily pause the thread. Even in a system built on structure, individual agency cannot be fully removed. In the shadowed galleries, portraits seem to lean forward, as if observing not just history, but the present moment. Every precedent, every royal decree, every procedural nuance is catalogued in silence. Continuity, when threatened, manifests not in uproar, but in measured, deliberate shifts. Systems respond before people do. Advisors brief, ministers consult, and yet no one speaks the words that might force the moment into reality. There is an unresolved tension in this silence, an anticipation of the point where formal authority encounters human hesitation. Continuity is designed to absorb disruption, yet history shows that even well-designed structures face strain when personal decision diverges from expectation. What the nation, and indeed the world, witnesses now is not rebellion, but the slow crystallization of choice against codified duty. In Madrid, the streets continue their rhythm. Outside, life moves with ordinary cadence, unaware that the axis of national continuity has shifted imperceptibly. And yet, the crown waits. It is patient. It is immovable. It is history in motion, observing the present with impartial expectation. If she says no, the words echo again, quieter this time, like a warning in stone corridors. And the uncertainty lingers, not chaotic, but deliberate, as if the palace itself holds its breath. The next move will define not just a succession, but the resilience of centuries of law, ceremony, and institutional integrity. The story continues, tense, unresolved, and poised on the edge of history. A hush settles over council chambers. The advisors move with precision, mapping scenarios that the public cannot see. Every legal clause, every historical precedent, every nuance of constitutional procedure is examined. Continuity is paramount. The machinery of the monarchy is designed to function even when its most visible element hesitates, but the optics of hesitation cannot be fully contained. Across Europe, subtle signals ripple through capitals. London notes that Spain's monarchy, though constitutionally constrained, serves as a symbol of stability in the region. Berlin registers the potential diplomatic reverberations. Treaties, ceremonial obligations, and international perception all hinge on predictable succession. Washington treats the situation as a test of institutional reliability. Even Ottawa and Canberra register the symbolic weight. In nations steeped in their own constitutional monarchy traditions, the precedent of refusal resonates far beyond Iberian borders. Inside the palace, corridors that have witnessed coronations and oaths stand silent. Portraits of forebears seem almost to observe the present with judgment, or perhaps anticipation. Every marble step, every gilded railing, is part of a choreography that enforces continuity. Yet now, the choreography is at risk. The heir's personal decision, private, deliberate, intersects with a centuries-old expectation. History has taught that continuity is resilient, but it is never infallible. Advisors convene quietly, considering emergency protocols. Legal texts are reviewed line by line. Succession contingencies are rehearsed internally. The possibility of deviation exists, but the response is structural, not reactive. The palace functions as a system. If one component falters, the mechanisms of state will attempt to compensate. Yet the human element remains. The weight of choice rests squarely on her shoulders, even when the law dictates otherwise. Minutes stretch into hours. Every decision is measured against the twin imperatives of duty and national identity. The crown is not merely ornamental, it is an anchor. National identity is woven into every ceremony, every speech, every silent gesture. To step aside is to introduce a fissure, however temporary, into that woven fabric. Observers in Madrid, though unaware of internal deliberations, sense the tension, as if continuity itself has taken a breath and paused. A deeper uncertainty looms. The public may never fully grasp the mechanics at play. They may only perceive the absence, the hesitation. Political commentators speculate, historians revisit precedent, and diplomats note the quiet tests of protocol. Yet some questions remain deliberately unspoken. Certain measures, certain contingency plans, are sealed behind palace walls, known only to a select few entrusted with preserving continuity. Time moves forward, inexorably. Each passing hour tests the resilience of both law and expectation. The crown, waiting in its velvet case, is emblematic of an institution older than the Constitution itself. It embodies authority, ritual, and national identity simultaneously. The human choice intersects with structural inevitability, and in that intersection lies tension both palpable and invisible. And still, the palace remains silent. Outside, Madrid continues its rhythm. Inside, the corridors echo faintly with footsteps and the subtle turning of pages. Continuity, the living thread, is observed, measured, and prepared to respond. History is present in every gesture, every consultation, every glance toward the crown that will not wait. If she says no, the words resonate again, weighty and unyielding. A refusal is not simply a pause, it is a question posed to centuries of institutional authority. The response will be structural, procedural, and deliberate. The future of the monarchy, and the perception of Spain on the world stage, rests on this delicate balance. And yet, as the palace holds its breath, nothing is yet resolved. The story stretches forward, suspended at the edge of history, awaiting a choice that may never be fully revealed. The palace clock chimes again, a sound both ordinary and ominous. Each note marks the passage of time that cannot be reclaimed. Advisors move with disciplined urgency, but never hastily. They understand that the crown is not just a symbol, it is a system, engineered to outlast hesitation. Yet even the most precise systems are tested when the heir herself questions the script written for her life. International observers calculate quietly. Washington gauges continuity as a proxy for regional stability. London notes that the monarchy, though ceremonial, serves as a keystone of social and political equilibrium. Berlin considers the subtle diplomatic signals this moment sends across the European Union. Ottawa and Canberra register the symbolic resonance in constitutional monarchies half a world away. Even the smallest hesitation here reverberates far beyond the palace walls, a reminder that succession is never merely domestic. Inside, the human element asserts itself. Every corridor, every hall, every chamber is layered with history. portraits of monarchs long past seem to cast judgment not only on the present but on the very possibility of refusal. Legal precedents are scrutinized with painstaking attention, but the law alone cannot anticipate the pause of a single individual. Continuity depends on the balance between codified duty and human compliance, and that balance is fragile. Minutes become hours. The quiet tension is nearly audible. The palace, a fortress of ritual, law, and tradition, functions like a clockwork organism. Every gesture, consultation, and ceremonial preparation is a strand in a web designed to absorb shocks, yet even the most resilient structure bends under uncertainty. A refusal would not break it, but it would test it in ways the architects of succession never imagined. Public awareness is selective. Citizens notice only the subtle signals: a shift in schedule, a delayed announcement, a ceremonial absence. Media speculation is careful, measured, hedging between curiosity and restraint. Certain questions remain unspoken because they are too dangerous, or too revealing, to explore openly. The protocols for refusal exist only in theory, hidden behind doors, sealed documents, and the quiet authority of those sworn to maintain continuity. History has always provided lessons. European monarchs who hesitated or abdicated left a record of strain and adaptation. Spain's system, by design, is meant to absorb hesitation while signaling stability. Yet the tension is tangible, continuity is structural, not sentimental, and the intersection of law and personal choice is never without friction. Every move is watched, measured, and calculated. Every pause is amplified across time, space, and observation. The weight of possibility presses down. The crown, heavy with expectation, sits poised for the moment it will finally be placed, or refused. Advisors map contingency after contingency, but their calculations are theoretical until acted upon. History has shown that the machinery of monarchy is durable, but it relies on compliance, subtle authority, and ritual that cannot be entirely codified. If she says no, the words hang like a bell in the silent chambers. They are both a warning and a reality, a measure of the tension between human agency and institutional design. What follows will be structural, deliberate, and observed not just within Spain, but across capitals that treat continuity as a metric of credibility. And yet, even now, nothing has resolved. The crown waits. History watches. The future remains unwritten. The afternoon light shifts through the palace windows, casting long shadows over floors that have borne witness to centuries of decisions that shaped a nation, its identity, and its place in the world. Every surface seems to absorb the weight of anticipation. The crown itself sits silently, immovable, indifferent to human hesitation. Continuity does not ask for permission, it simply endures. Outside, Madrid continues its ordinary rhythm. Citizens pass without knowing the magnitude of what hangs in balance. Yet the threads of governance are taut, invisible to the eye, connecting chamber to council, palace to parliament, nation to the world. Global capitals follow these threads. Washington measures continuity as a reflection of political stability. London interprets the subtle messaging as a gauge of European predictability. Berlin watches the structural integrity of ceremonial authority. Ottawa and Canberra note how symbolic hesitation can echo across continents, reinforcing or undermining faith in monarchy itself. Inside, the palace operates with quiet precision. Advisors cross-check laws, review emergency protocols, and rehearse formalities for a decision that may never be voiced. Continuity is preserved through systems, through procedure, through ritual. But even the most precise system feels the tension of human will. The crown is more than gold and jewels, it is the embodiment of centuries, a visible point where history and expectation converge. There is a moment when everything seems suspended. The past, present, and future intersect in a single heartbeat. Every precedent, every constitutional clause, every ceremonial nuance, now exists against the backdrop of one question. A pause like this is rare. It is a test not of ambition, not of desire, but of institutional resilience. The crown does not bend, but the world around it holds its breath. If she says no, the words repeat, final and unflinching. They are the hinge on which history may turn. The outcome will ripple through law, tradition, and perception. Global observers will note the structural response. The monarchy will act, the constitution will assert itself, the nation will move forward. Yet uncertainty remains. The crown, poised on centuries of expectation, does not reveal its judgment in advance. The threads of continuity stretch taut, waiting to see if they will hold, or fray. And in that silence, the story does not end. History, the world, and the palace itself watch the space between choice and consequence. What comes next cannot be predicted. It is neither a collapse nor a declaration, but the quiet tension of a nation poised at the edge of its own continuity. The crown waits. The eyes of history remain fixed. If she says no, and the future, like the palace shadows, remains unresolved, heavy with possibility, and profoundly alive.